Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Ardian Berisha and I'm the Portfolio Marketing Manager for Information Security and Management at BCB. In today's presentation, we will discuss about the human resource security requirements in ISO 27001 implementation. Our presenter for today is Mr. Chandra Mohan Govindarajula, who has 16 years of working experience as an implementer lead auditor, and he is currently working as a lead information security at ValueLabs. You will have the opportunity to submit written questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the question pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentations, as we will collect and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Mr. Chandra, please, you may start with your presentation.
Thank you, Ardian. Hello, everyone. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Human Resource Security Requirements in ISO 27001 implementation. So my name is Chandra Mohan Govindarajula. I have experience in implementation, lead auditor. I'm also a trainer, consultant, worked with different organizations, including certification bodies like TUV Rheinland, TUV India. Presently, I am working as a lead information security for ValueLabs India. And this is my contact number and my email ID for your reference. Let's move on. ISO IEC 27001 implementation, Annex A, Human Resource Security. The today's topics are A 7.1, prior to employment, Annex A 7.2, during employment, Annex A 7.3, termination and change of employment. We're going to discuss all these three sub-clauses or sub-controls in detail going forward. Let's start with Annex A 7.1, prior to employment. This control talks about what is the objective, talks about to ensure that employees and contractors understand their responsibilities and are suitable for roles for which they are considered. That is the objective of this particular control, wherein ensures that employees and contractors understand their roles and responsibilities suitable to be considered. The sub-control A 7.1.1, which is called screening. The objective of the control or the control description says background verification checks on all candidates for employment shall. You see that? Shall is underlined. Standard always use this word or a verb or pronoun saying a word called shall. Wherever we see the word shall, that means it is a mandatory requirement of the standard. Employment shall be carried out in accordance with relevant laws, regulations, ethics, and shall be proportional to the business requirement, the classification of information to be assessed and risks to be perceived. Now, very clear, the control is crystal clear in its own control description. So implementation should be very easy for all of us. So what are the implementation guidelines? We have A, B, C, D, E. A, availability of satisfactory character reference, that is one business, one person. A verification for completeness and accuracy of applicant or a candidate's resume or a curriculum vitae or a CV, or confirmation of claimed academic and professional qualifications. So whatever the qualifications the candidate says that he or she possess, though we need to confirm that. And then independent identification or identity verification like a passport or a social security number or anything which is issued by the government of that particular relevant country. And finally, more detailed verifications such as credit review a review of criminal record wherever necessary. Now these are 5 things that we can look into while implementing screening. Now, if the organization is taking a person, hiring a person specific to information security role, there are some additional measures that needs to be taken. What are those additional measures that we can look into if the organization is taking somebody into information security role? A, has the necessary competence to perform security role. He is competent enough in terms of qualification, education, experience, and competency. That's what we see. B, can be trusted to take on the role, especially if the role is critical for the organization. So this screening we have divided into 2 sections. One for the non-security role. The second one is for the information security role. Okay, let's move on. Annex 7.1.2, terms and conditions of employment. The control objective says that the contractual agreements with employees, contractors shall, read that word, shall state their and the organization's responsibility for information security. Very clear in its intent. What does it want? Let's go to the implementation guidelines. Implementation guidelines, again, how we have 5. Point number A, all the employees and contractors who are given access to confidential information should sign a confidentiality or non-disclosure agreement prior to being given access to information processing facilities. So it also cross-references to Annex 13.2.4. Point number B, employees or contractors' legal responsibilities, rights regarding copyright laws, data protection legislation, that is cross-referencing to 18.1.2, 18.1.4. C, responsibilities for the classification of information and management of organizational assets associated with information processing facilities, and information services handled by the employees or contractors, which refers back to clause number 8. Responsibilities for the employees and contractors for handling the information received from other companies or external parties. Actions to be taken if employee or a contractor disregard, breach the organization's security requirements, which refers to 7.2.3. So if we take care of all these implementation guidelines, we are sure of implementing Annex 7.1.2, that is terms and conditions of employment. Now, coming to A 7.2, during employment. The first one we finished was prior to employment. Now let's talk about during employment. What is the objective of this? To ensure that employees and contractors are aware of and fulfill their information security responsibilities. Annex 7.2.1, that is a sub-control in during employment 7.2, which is number 1, management responsibility. Control. Management shall require all employees, contractors to apply information security in accordance with established policies and procedures of the organization. Now, how can we achieve this? Implementation guidelines. Management responsibility should include ensuring that employees and contractors are properly briefed on their information security roles and responsibilities prior to being granted access to confidential information or information systems of the organization, number 1. Number 2, are provided with guidelines to state information security expectations of their roles within the organization. C, are motivated to fulfill the information security policies of the organization. D, achieve a level of awareness on information security relevant to their roles and responsibilities within the organization. Again, it references to 7.2, conforms to the terms and conditions of employment, which include the organization's information security policy and appropriate methods of working, organization's own policies and requirements. F, continue to have appropriate skills and qualifications and are educated on regular basis. Continual improvement, that's what we say. And finally, are provided with an anonymous reporting channel to report violations of information security policies and procedures, whistleblowing. Okay, so if we take care of all A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then we are sure that we can fulfill the sub-control A 7.2.1 of management responsibility under A 7.2, which is during employment. Now let's talk about the second sub-control, A 7.2.2, information security awareness, education, training. This control objective is all employees of the organization and wherever relevant, contractors, not only employees but also contractors, shall receive appropriate awareness, education, training and regular updates in organizational policies, procedures as relevant for their job function. This is also very clear, very simple statement. Now let's understand how can we achieve this in terms of implementation. Information security education training should also cover general aspects. What are those aspects? A, stating management's commitment to information security throughout the organization. B, the need to become familiar with and comply with applicable information security obligations, policies, standards, laws, regulations, contracts, agreements. C, personal accountability of one's actions, inactions, and general responsibilities towards securing or protecting information belonging to organization and of course external third parties. And D, basic information security procedures such as information security incident reporting and baseline controls such as password security policy, malware control, clear desk clear screen policy, all that needs to be fulfilled. And finally, contact points and resources for additional information and advice on information security matters, including further information security education and training materials. So continuously, organization level, whole organization shall need to be educated on information security in terms of awareness, education, policies, regulations, laws, existing procedures. Very simple. Let's go to the other sub-control, A 7.2.3, disciplinary policy, disciplinary process. So how do we define this process? By implementing a policy. Now what does the control say? There shall be a formal and communicated. You see, you have a policy but you have not communicated. What good is it? That's why the standard says that shall be a formal and communicated disciplinary process in place to take actions against employees who have committed an information security breach. See that image. Our friend is being told what actions he is going to face. Implementation guidelines. How are we going to achieve this? A, the disciplinary process should not be commenced without prior verification that an information security breach has occurred. See, prior verification is nothing but investigation of the information security breach. Without an investigation, you are not supposed to take any action. You have to find the truth of the matter, then come up with the evidence, and then you take the action. It's cross-referencing to 16.1.7. B, the formal disciplinary process should ensure correct and fair treatment for employees who are suspected of committing breaches of information security. You see, correct and fair treatment of employees. No question of sidelining or maligning or taking sides for the employees. So all the employees are equal in our organization, irrespective of their roles, designations, relationships to the organizational management. See, the disciplinary process should also be viewed as a deterrent to prevent employees from violating the organization information security policies, procedures, and any other information security breach. Deliberate breaches may require immediate action. Breaches may happen with ignorance as well. So we need to understand whether this breach related to information security, is it out of ignorance? Is it out of awareness? Is it out of deliberately doing this with an intention, with a bad intent of the employee? That's where in the first point we talked about, should not be commenced with prior verification. The fact of the matter will come out in verifications. Let's go back to the point number D. The disciplinary process can also become a motivation or an incentive if positive sanctions are defined for remarkable behavior with regard to information security. Of course, this point is again under the purview of the management of the organization, how they will define the disciplinary process or policy or procedure in their organization. So if we fulfill these A, B, C, D, we are good to go for implementation of disciplinary policy subcontrol A 7.2.3 of ISO 27001:2013. Let's go to the last point. Let's go to the last sub-control rather, which talks about termination and change of employment. And then it says what is the objective? To protect the organization's interest as part of the process of changing or terminating the employment. Now, if you are terminating an employee, or if you are changing the employment of an individual within the organization, that means you're not terminating the person. The person is still working, but he used to work with X function. Now he's going to work with a Y function in the organization. That's where, how you're going to deal with it. The sub-control is 7.3.1. Termination or change of employment responsibilities. What does the control says? The control says information security responsibilities and duties that remain valid after termination or change of employment shall be defined. You see that magic word? Shall. Communicated to employees or contractors, and see that last word, enforced, implemented, most important thing. Now, how are we going to do this? What are the things that we require to implement this particular sub-control? Implementation guidelines. A, the communication or termination responsibilities should include ongoing security requirements and legal responsibilities, and where appropriate, responsibilities contained within any confidential agreement, cross-referencing to 6.1.5 clause number. Responsibilities and duties still valid after termination of employment should be contained in employees, contractors, are third-party user contracts. That means that needs to be mentioned specifically, categorically in their contract. See, changes of responsibility or employment should be managed as the termination of the respective responsibility or employment, and the new responsibility or employment should be controlled as described in clause number 8.1. In this case, point number C, the gentleman, the employee is not terminated, So responsibilities of employee, the new responsibility that is being given should be controlled. That's what they're saying. And then point number D, it may be necessary to inform employees, customers, contractors, third-party users of changes in to personnel or operating arrangements within the organization. So if the person is reporting to X in one department, so when his employment is changed from that function to some other function, what is his reporting channel mechanism, what access rights he or she has, how long he's going to keep those previous roles and responsibility access rights, all that will need to be defined. So this is the thing, and of course the information that I have gathered in these slides are taken from these particular ISO standards and reference documents. The first one, you are all familiar with this, ISO 27000 vocabulary, third edition, and of course 27001 information security management 2013 standard, which is nothing but requirements, 27002, which is nothing but the security techniques code of practice for information security, and finally 27003, 27003 is information security management implementation guidelines. So you can find whatever you see on these slides in all these documents. You can refer to them and then understand, or you can always get in touch with me. I've already shared my email ID, phone number for any references. I would request Adin to take it from here, please.
Thank you, Chandra, for this great presentation. We want to inform you that PCB provides training and certification services for ISO 27001 Introduction, Foundation, Lead Implementer, and Lead Auditor. The training is designed to provide you the required knowledge to carry out audits of information security management systems against ISO 27001 and be able to run the processes involved in implementing ISMS as defined in ISO 27001. A PCB certificate will exemplify your dedication in implementing and managing these processes and frameworks, and most importantly, you will be recognized worldwide. Now, we will go ahead and take some time to answer some of the questions from the attendees regarding to today's topic. The first question is, when an individual is hired for a specific information security role, what is the first thing that organizations seek to find out about that person?
Oh, absolutely. So we have discussed the two situations where the individual is hired. You see this slide? The point number, when an individual is hired for a specific information security role, organization should make sure the candidate A has the necessary competence to perform the security role, B can be trusted to take on the role, especially if the role is critical for the organization.
Now the second question is, can you tell us more about the reporting channel? Is that efficient?
Yes, a reporting channel is where the organization has defined roles and responsibilities for people working in the organization in terms of information security or non-information security. Now, if I work for a function called Human Resource Department, now what is my roles and responsibilities, number one, and what is my designation, who I report to, and what are my roles and responsibilities in terms of information security management system implementation in human resource security department or function. So this is difficult to generalize because it keeps on changing from organization to organization, but as a thumb rule, what we can say is the reporting channel for people working in the organization can be followed in a normal framework of any organizational structure or organizational chart.
Thank you, Chandra. Now, the third question is, what are some of the most common cases of information security breach by employees?
Very interesting. So there are lots of them. So when we used to do the audits for certification bodies, so when we go to any human resource function or any other information security CISO or IT function, the common information security breaches would be access privilege rights. People are doing the access tailgating, physical security, or people access is not been revoked even though the employee is no longer working, and people are downloading the content which is not supposed to be downloaded. How are they doing it? These are all breaches. Now people are modifying the content or not abiding by the information security policy of the organization, or the list can go on and on. But the fact of the matter is that nobody does it intentionally. You see, everybody do it. The people who do it, they do it because they are not aware, they are ignorant. So the responsibility lies on the organization. The organization has to deliberate, communicate, and bring about the awareness. Then information security breaches can be reduced. And the first thing that we discussed in the slide, when you see an information security breach, don't take action. You have to verify, validate, investigate. Based on that, you can take disciplinary action.
Thank you, Chandra, once again for this great presentation, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. I would like to let you know that this webinar will be recorded and posted to our website as well as on our YouTube channel. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey about the presentation, and we would appreciate it if you would complete it and provide us with your feedback. Also, if you are aware of a topic that you would like to discuss and participants would benefit from, please feel free to write down your suggestions. This is the last round of information security this year. The next round of PCB webinars will begin on January 2017 with premium topics and premium speakers. Thank you all and have a great day.